Hi there, my name's Graham King and welcome to a short workshop that I've designed. Great people make people feel great. I've done this to introduce myself as much as hopefully present a brief moment of inspiration to your day. I believe that each of us have an incredible gift to encourage the potential in each other. And I believe that gift is through what I call recognition, something that I learned years ago from the teachings of Dale Carnegie. For me, the potential in others is such a key, and by doing that, I think really adds to your career and that lovely little treasure chest that we keep to ourselves that's filled with the trophies of impressive friendships, those great milestones of achievements that we have. So this intervention is focused on that core skill of recognition. Because I'm all about training others to be impressive. Impressive to those you interact with, impressive to the results and achievements you produce, impressive to the challenges that you will face and how you handle life's upside downs. I have for longer than I can remember sought to practice enthusiasm and encouragement in my professional skills so that it spills over into everyday life. And I find that it helps me handle the great times as well as the disappointments that modern life brings. So I hope this intervention offers ideas for yourself on how to raise your presence, how to strengthen your influence, and ultimate your ability. There was a catchphrase that I once heard that training to be impressive really is a unique terminology because for me it defines a champion in sports and success in business. So, a brief introduction about myself. I started out in the hospitality industry as a manager where I worked for over 15 years. And I developed a real passion and a bit of a knack for delivering really great customer service, great guest service. I just love to spoil people and leave them with an experience that they would remember, turning guests into fans. To anticipate a guest, whether they were celebrating a birthday or even a couple on their first date to spoil them. I just thrived in it. And it ended up opening with two very special partners, two restaurants of my own. But throughout this journey in the restaurants, I became increasingly curious as to what made people tick. Why was our small restaurant doing so well? And it began to dawn on me that was maybe how we were making people feel that was attracting them as much as the restaurant menu and atmosphere. Over time, I became absolutely fascinated with the gifts that we can use with each other to inspire sincerely and genuinely. And so simply put, it really became a key for me, which led me into the training industry on how inspiration can work. The ultimate ambition was for me, I guess, was to learn how to impact others to reach the very best in life for themselves, how to become the exception in whatever field their passions lie in. So 20 odd years later into today, I've designed and delivered workshops across the world. Um, my first training exercises was in welfare to work, where delivering inspirational workshops was so critically important. You had to be on the ball with it because you were dealing with people's lives and perspectives. There was one particular area in Manchester that we were delivering to young people who the only thing that they'd learnt at school was failure. And so inspiring them into a better position in life to see that they did have opportunities. I mean, that was pretty serious stuff. So my experience, I feel, resonate with the realities of all those who strive to be a professional success story. And it's from these life lessons that I present this training intervention. Great people make people feel great. So, we talk about our successes, I guess, but we also talk about the mistakes that I made. You know, they helped me to develop just as much as my wins did. Sometimes my enthusiasm and my headlong rush to achieve missed obvious opportunities to really engage and develop with people around me, to understand that teams relied on trust, that to be empathetic and understand others' perspectives, the power of collaboration and compromise, rather than rushing in as a young bloke to impress with results. So to share these insights, we'll have a look at how does leadership inspire us, the actions that promote recognition, the power of recognition. We'll look at the proof of recognition in summary and hopefully leave you with a personal question to consider. So professionals face a range of challenges, don't we? Establishing authority when we take over a new position, balancing short-term and long-term responsibilities, trying to keep the focus for ourselves and our teams on what we need to achieve, building team cohesion, understanding the differences in behavior styles when we talk about the analytic, the driver, the charismatic, the team player, and how best to converse and motivate them to succeed, handling conflict, setting clear expectations, managing individual and team performance in a way that keeps everyone focused on the outcomes and inspired and energized to reach those, turning challenges into opportunities, and managing change. Managing change for me has been an interesting area to explore because we have to manage change in so many areas of our life, don't we? Because we're organic and we're always growing. New opportunities are coming in front of us. So managing change, whether it's a new relationship, a new position, a new school, locating to a different region of the country, having to integrate into a new business direction. Managing change for me has four clear stages, and it's relation to impact and time. So, for example, the four stages can typically be to be heavy-handed with the expressions shock, and then anger, confusion, and then finding our comfort zone. So, for instance, when I was working with one particular company, I'd only been there for 3 weeks, and they were introducing a very powerful new computer system that was going to run the entire organization. Now, for me, I'd only been there for 3 weeks, so the impact on me was very short. And the time for me to move through that change was also very short. But for people that have been there for quite a long time, when we're used to the old system, the shock of this sudden implementation really did cause them some fear. And then of course they retaliated by being angry about it. They got uncomfortable, and obviously it took a long time for them to find their feet in the system. And for me, that whole scenario could have been a real genius move if the communication had been put right at the right points of time. Explaining, for instance, at the beginning how that change was being considered, then moving into having open discussions about what the change was going to bring and what was in it for people, then bringing it forward so people had a chance to experience and understand what that change was going to be, and then obviously at the end having one-to-ones to help people find their feet a little bit quicker. Managing change, it's an interesting position that I think sometimes we as professionals rush to bring change in without thinking it through clearly. Navigating relationships is key, and providing feedback. Now, feedback for me as a professional, it can't be any more important to lead when it comes to dealing with people. Feedback, being able to use the correct language, to understand the detail, to be able to express yourself, which shows a knowledge to help people grasp situations and improve. Feedback for me, so clearly underrated. How many times have I asked somebody in a profession, how did they feel about this particular development? And they said, good. So this is key to understand this. So it's important to understand feedback can be an incredibly powerful tool. It can help you improve your ability to understand situations. It can help your ability to be more professional in the way that you assess objectives and timeframes. And it can be an incredibly powerful tool when hoping to bring people forward. Yeah. So looking back at times, I guess when we talk about recognition, for me, there've been three key people who I would call great leaders. So much so. And these three had what I would call the X factor. They had an ability to make the person in front of them feel completely special to understand that, and that they were absolutely great at it. The characteristics that stood out was their enthusiasm and encouragement, their ability to remember key things about what that person enjoyed, what that person's skill level was like, and the ability at the end to make them feel incredibly special. Working with one particular CEO who had a background in sales, his ability to focus on people and make them feel uplifted and energized was just so impressive that he would literally have dozens of CVs pouring into his business for people wanting to come and work with him. The work culture was incredibly enthusiastic and encouraging, and I'm not talking about over the top where people are going around hugging each other. I'm talking about where challenges became opportunities to be discussed, and people's perspectives became revered and analyzed and brought forward. It was incredible the atmosphere that was generated from that. People's resilience became stronger, their performance became stronger, their willingness to collaborate with team members became stronger, and their attitude to the business resounded out into their customer base as well, where customers were just keen to be more engaged with that with the people in the business because of the way that they were made to feel. And we saw that in the restaurants very much so. You know, I remember one gentleman coming into the restaurant one night and saying, "Oh, thank goodness that you're working here tonight, Graham. I need a pick me up." Now, I'd have a look on the menu and I couldn't see pick me up anywhere that we had listed. But what he was obviously suggesting was I had a way of making people feel comfortable and relaxed and focusing attention on them and making them feel like kings and queens for an evening. And my goodness me, don't we see that lacking in so many businesses these days, you know? And then I hear people in those businesses say we can't make money. We can't build a loyal customer base. And I think to myself, how are you treating your customers? Do you make them feel special? Because I tell you, if you make people feel special, they'll pay more for your product. The price won't come into it as such, will it? Because of the way that you make them feel. So a leader who inspires you is all about their enthusiasm, their encouragement, and how they raise a belief of being key to the business success. You know, through most of our professional careers, we've been guided by those who've made a difference. And here's the thing, most of our greatest friendships and deepest relationships are all honed from this same remarkable substance we call recognition. And for me, it's the ability to empathize, appreciate, and validate someone through a genuine recognition of presence, effort, ability, and or talent. So I remember going to one VIP function one night and walking in, and I didn't know anybody. And we went to the bar, got the usual handed across to us in the bar, and I was standing with a group of people I hadn't met before, and I said g'day to them. I said, "Oh, you're an Australian?" I said, "I sure am. Let me tell you all about me." How long do you think that conversation went before they were reaching for their phones and looking for an out? So imagine now if it was reversed. I walked into to that bar and I said, "I am Australian. Where are you from? What do you do?" No way. Well, that particular incident did happen to me in a group of workshop people that we were dealing with in one training session. And I tell you, the conversation went on for such a long time. People just suddenly realized that, you know, they were well and truly past their finishing time. And that's the key for me, isn't it? When you make people feel special, when you listen to them, you really listen to them genuinely and sincerely. I mean, just to reverse it, how do you feel when people treat you like that? So actions that can promote recognition, active listening, we understand that that's listening to the whole, the tone of voice, the eye contact, how people are physically representing themselves with the body language. Delegation of work can be an incredibly powerful way of promoting recognition for somebody, giving them an opportunity to shine, and with the correct feedback can lead them to going past barriers they never thought were possible. And that really resonates for me because that's how I started in the restaurant trade. I had a gentleman that believed that I could easily run a restaurant even though I had no idea of a business, and his belief in me really inspired me to go beyond what I thought was possible. Building a personal file to remember, that's remembering those key things that people have been engaged in. One CEO remembered that I enjoyed running around in my little car and was always quick to ask how the car was. Another one, CEO that I worked with, was very quick to have a discussion about my latest holidays and where I was planning to go to next, what I enjoyed most, etc., etc. It just went on. Because that's all what we do when we lead with encourage and enthusiasm. It's not about being loud and about being over the top. It's being about encouraging and enthusiastic the person in front of you. Imagine the young boy that's opening up his Christmas presents with his dad, and his dad's enthusiastic about what the present is. The little bloke just shines. So leading the other area, leading others to discover their solutions, not giving them the answer, letting them think about things through and giving them time to say, why don't you think about it for a day or so and come back to me? I remember one state manager did that to a particular manager. I was working in a restaurant and the state manager was with me and he had a phone call from another manager who had misplaced a particular amount of beef. I think it was about 10 kilos of beef that had been misplaced. He couldn't find it. And the state manager said, look, go through your paperwork, have a consider of this, have a consider of that, you know, calm down. It's bound to be there. Give me a call back in a couple of hours. And if you haven't found it, I'll come over and we'll investigate together. But we'll find it. There's no, these things happen. Anyway, within half an hour, the guy had rung back. He'd found it. It was a misplaced invoice. And the state manager, after he put the phone down, he complimented the guy on finding the missing invoice. But he put the phone down. I looked at the state manager and said, your tone to him was so enthusiastic. He said, yeah, he says, I told him this is the reason what we hired him, because he was conscious about his work. And I knew presenting him with a business to run, he would be very indulgent in making sure that it was run correctly and accurately. So it was key that happened. So that brings us into appraisals and objectives with support, mentoring and coaching, working from other people's perspectives. And the key for that for me is always what's in it for them. If I didn't have many guests inside my restaurant, I turned around to staff, said, I want to save some money. I'll sign you off, guy. I sign you off early now, guys. Not so effective. But if I turned around to them and said, listen, it's such a nice night out there and we're quiet. Why don't you guys go and have a nice evening with your family? A little bit more effective, isn't it? And then, of course, catching people doing it right. Aren't we good at finding fault? I mean, you think about it, we've made a profession, a whole series of professions out of being the critic, haven't we? The theatre critic, the political critic, the financial critic, housing critic, the work critic, the space critic, you name it. But catching people doing it right and not making a big song and dance about it in front of other people. You wait to the appropriate time when you're one-on-one and you quietly point out what you saw and how that impressed you. Key ideas to move forward. So why does recognition work? Well, it gives a genuine sense of importance and respect, doesn't it? It enhances empathy and appreciation. It's a great delivery method to bring forward. It embeds an eagerness for someone to do more. Now, here's an interesting story. When I was delivering workshops for the Welfare to Work, we did a coffee morning for a group of lone parents with young children. We had finger painting set up for the young people to go and enjoy themselves with. And I was talking to a group of young parents, and this young bloke, only 4 or 5, came up to his mum with this large painting that he'd done. And it was full of colour, nothing else, just lots of colour. To me, it looked very confusing, but anyway, I'm no art critic. And his mum was so enthusiastic. Those beautiful colours that you've done, and she was very specific about what she liked about it. The young bloke just beamed, absolutely beamed. And she said, well, we'll have to go and put this on the fridge. And he suddenly popped out with this thing that just took me by surprise. He suddenly said to his, but Ma, I can do one better. I can do one better. And that's the key, isn't it? Once we find out what people enjoy about us, what we deliver, what we're good at, and people really hone in on that, we just want to produce more of it. Do we not? Yeah. So it can become a real catalyst for a healthy workplace environment. It can empower a better mindset to see problems as opportunities. It ignites a professional desire to achieve because we just love to win, and winning becomes addictive. It cultures a personal resilience. What would he or she do? It can promote the public image of the company. If you have a company that's very enthusiastic and encouraging in their own way and great at developing people, coming up with great opportunities from challenges, you watch the CV start flooding in. People will want to work for them. Raises the brand by word of mouth. I remember I worked with one particular events company where we had two temps come in from another company. And all these guys did for 3 days was tell us how much better our company was and how bad their company was, how they were bad at customer service, how they overcharged customers, how they never finished tasks on time, and that attitude about them was really quite bizarre. I remember talking to one of the young lads. I said to him, I guess you've got your CV out there looking for another job. And he says, I have been out there for 6 months, but I haven't had any takers yet. You think to yourself, well, I wonder why. If you're bad mouthing an organization and that drifts out and that organization gets a bad name, who's going to hire you? Yeah. So it can also encourage the best to apply for vacancies when you've got the right kind of attitude inset in the business. And ultimately, it reduces turnover. So proof that recognition works, look, it's in the strengths of our relationships. Our best relationships, our greatest friendships are all honed from that one key presence of recognition, isn't it? I can remember when I first met my lady, she came in with fantastic hair. She had really spent some time on her hair. It looked fantastic. And I made mention about it and we discussed it for quite some time. And you could just see, really, that was really important to her. Tell me all about you. What a great way to start a conversation. What a great attitude to have when you're dealing with other people. And I'll tell you, great salesmen who lead sales tables are very, very good at that, understanding the customer's perspective. I remember going to buy a car when I was a young bloke, had a particular idea of a car, went to a car yard that was quite well known in the area. Met this guy, and all we did was talk about cars. His knowledge on cars was so impressive, and he was explaining that he was building this old MG at home and how much he was enjoying it. By the time we finished, I must have been there for about an hour. He'd pointed out that he had this great special that was on sale that particular week, and it wasn't a car that I thought was particularly on my wish list, but I ended up buying the car because I just really liked the guy, and he was so in tune that he became the specialist. Do you follow? He became the center of knowledge for me. And I remember him saying, Graham, any of your mates want to come down and have a chat, want to have a car, get them to get in touch with me because it's my passion. Well, I mean, telling my mates about this guy to go down and meet him, wow. And he made sure that he always treated them really, really well. So I would get the feedback, yeah, you're right, Graham, this guy is really good. Do you see what happens? Sometimes we go after the sale, don't we? Sometimes we go after making our mark, getting that signature, when in actual fact, it's all about turning a customer into a fan. It's the foundation of psychology, the first stage of healing. You know, I hear stories of people going to the psychiatrist or the psychologist, and they say, I go in to have a chat, and the psychologist seems to tune straight into me, makes me feel so special, listens to me genuinely, sincerely. We talk about what's important to me and how I can move forward. And most say that when they walk out, they feel like a weight's been lifted from them. Giving people recognition, it's the first step in healing. But you deny people recognition? Yeah? And look what happens next. The power of marketing, we've seen it all in major campaigns, don't we? It's all about how this product or how this system or how this process is going to make you feel special, part of the in crowd. The influence of politics, they use it all the time. Follow me because I've got your best interests at heart. And for me, proof that it works is in the people that we remember. The ones that made that great impact on us. So, a personal question to ask you. If you were more aware of this one fundamental principle, and with ambition, purpose, and practice, you started to bring it into your profession more regularly, just how great could you be? I hope you've enjoyed what we've covered today. We've looked at how does leadership inspire us, the actions that promote recognition, the power of recognition, proof of recognition when we look back and reflect on our experiences, and leaving you with a personal question. Go out, remember, great people make people feel great.